I think it is clear to believe in the power of ideas.
Fresh thinking of the Manhattan Institute.
My name is Rod Nichols. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Manhattan Institute Luncheon. I'm proud to be a member of the Manhattan Institute Board, and if you're here for the first time, as I just found out from a few people, I hope you'll learn more about this extraordinary organization. President Larry Mohn is here, and several of his able staff are here. So find out about this outfit that is open, empirical, evidence-based, and welcomes debate. Today we welcome Peter Huber, a formidable debater in many fields, always sharp, who takes analysis seriously, which some don't, and treats the nation's future seriously, which some don't. Unlike many pundits at other think tanks, Peter is numerate. That is, he knows numbers. I remember as a young physicist learning what great physicist Lord Kelvin had as an injunction. Kelvin said, when you cannot measure it, when you cannot express it in numbers, you have scarcely in your thoughts advanced to the stage of science. And he added, whatever the matter may be. Well, I don't think you can impose that on the arts, probably not on parenting, certainly not on romance. But it's a very wise injunction, do your numbers, if you're doing public policy. And I must add, it's an antidote also to what I might say is a popular idea, the audacity of hope. Hope tends to shrink a bit when you give it numerical analysis. Smart people actually like numbers. Peter's earlier book, you may have noticed in your introduction to this meeting, elicited a very nice compliment from Bill Gates, who knows his numbers. Bill Gates said that The Bottomless Well was the only book I've seen that really explains energy, and I assume that Mr. Gates had numbers in mind. Similarly, Walter Wriston, the late Walter Wriston, who was one of the co-founders of the Manhattan Institute, when he looked at the book, which came out, I think, 4 years ago, he said, this is a book for anyone who deplores groupthink and demands original analysis. Kathy Wriston is here today, and I'm glad she will be listening to Peter talk about what her late husband enjoyed. Peter is going to be talking about energy, and when it comes to energy, the data and the numbers are really practically the whole story. Peter, I think, is going to say a little about China and India, but I just wanted to point out in the introduction, last year, 2008, China accounted for 3/4 of global energy growth. That's according to the best statistical review that I could find. That's going to continue. Last year, 2008, U.S. energy consumption dropped almost 3%, partly for efficiency reasons, partly because of the recession. But we need energy to grow economically, and so do China and India. I've worked in both those countries, and much of their energy will come from coal. So it's no surprise that China and India resist international regimes that limit what they do and how they do it. Realism here means it's a matter of numbers, people, jobs, food, energy. Realism is central. Another great physicist, Richard Feynman, said, for a successful technology, reality must take precedence over public relations, for nature cannot be fooled. Well, that takes quantitative analysis. I first met Peter in a study of telecommunications in New York State a good many years ago. Then we collaborated on an effort to squash junk science in the courtroom. He's a truly gifted man, PhD in mechanical engineering from MIT, went to Harvard Law School, clerked for Justice Ruth Ginsburg, and then later Justice Sandra Day O'Connor. He's an author of diverse books, articles, essays. Please join me in welcoming Peter Hubert.
Actually, when I clerked for Ruth, that was a while ago, and we're so intimate I still call her judge. She was on the D.C. Circuit back then, but O'Connor was on the Supreme Court. So look at it this way: healthcare, the 15% of GDP we consume lying down is really our lethargy budget. Energy, the rushing about stuff, is bigger, and in many ways more insidious. The money up for grabs, the pot up for grabs here is probably 20 to 25% of our budget, some fraction of that on fuel, and then more even on the huge amounts of hardware, the engines and the furnaces and the boilers and so on that are very tightly tied to the fuels themselves. The grab for the energy economy is also much more stealthy. Most of Washington's spending here is and will be entirely off budget. It takes the form of regulatory mandates, and these mandates tend to start very high up in places like Copenhagen and then dive right down into an alphabet soup of agencies, EPA and DOE and FERC, without ever really passing through Congress or anywhere else. They're extraordinarily opaque and difficult. Very few people have any clue what they really add up to or what they cost. And I think it's fair to say that Washington and most other governments are counting on that.